and share screen. All right, can you guys see that okay?
Yep.
All right, so what we've been working on, Phil M. Jones outlined the 4 cornerstones. Like Ry said, the worst time to think about what you're saying is when you're saying it. Getting prepared ahead of time to have these conversations has been powerfully shrinking the amount of time it's taking to get through consultations, buyer workshops, listings, like the whole 9. And it's been super powerful at converting in open houses, getting to appointments, and solidifying relationships. Number 2 cornerstone, curiosity is the fuel for great conversation. So just being curious and open, no judgment, so we can find out what's really important to clients. Number 3, people do things for their own reasons, not yours. So it's got to always be about the client, about their experience, about what matters to them. And number 4, the person asking the questions controls the conversation. I even had an instance yesterday where a client, on a text thread asked what their home, might sell for, because I know they're trying to run calculations to contemplate maybe actually selling it after all to see have a bigger down payment. Instead of answering the question with a question, I answered the questions and then the conversation fell off. Had I answered the question with a question of, what are your thoughts about this and that, and having the conversation would be more powerful and would continue. So now I got to go restoke that again to have more conversation about it. So even myself just need to practice answering questions with questions so that we can kind of qualify and understand where they're coming from, what they're trying to figure out, to get them the proper answers and resources. What I'd like to do.
So what if the question is, I'm just looking to sell my property? So you would start with time frame, why?
No, I just want to sell my property. Okay, what has you thinking about selling your property, or why are you thinking about selling your property?
I have personal reasons.
What are those?
I just want to sell it. I literally got this call this morning and I was like, this is a scam.
You know what? And maybe, Stace, seriously, like,
it felt like that because it was when they were trying to figure out, because they were texting and I said, I want to research the property. Can I give you a call in an hour? And so, in an hour after I researched property, I hit them back up and I was like, okay, so you're looking to sell this property. Why are you looking to sell? And it was just personal reasons. I said, oh, okay, that's great. Is there an ideal time where you're looking to have this thing completely wrapped up and done? Is there a timeline you're on because of these personal reasons? And didn't know what to say or do. And so I was like, yeah, I'm hanging up now.
There you go. Good job. Because, that sounds kind of weird.
Well, I had him on speakerphone and Nick was listening. And he was just shaking his head no the whole time. He's like, yeah, no, nope. You just wait an hour. It's okay.
There you go. Yeah, all good there. So for these question trees that we're building, Stace, has been powerfully working with being able to get people to open up and have more deeper conversations with our clients and really find out the context of their motivations and what really matters to them deeply. So these first 18 questions start with rejection-free openings. Rejection-free openings are designed to get a conversation started and gain permission to have a conversation. So they're ways to make it easy to start off and move forward. Perspective changes are to really get to understand where the clients are heads at, what their experience is like, so that we can adapt our conversation and value around what matters to them and what level they're at. Because we're going to have a different conversation with a first-time buyer or a first-time seller that's never done this before compared to somebody who has a ton of experience and has worked with all kinds of real estate professionals. You know what I'm saying? And so these 1 through 18 was our practice at the workshop to get used to building a question tree, to start with the first 18 and in this sequence, because going in this sequence is a more natural flow. Once we get really good and we build a foundation of being able to build question trees using the first 18, then with practice, we will get better at being able to move things around, because you don't necessarily have to ask things in this exact order. It just happens to be a great flow. And it's a great way to start to get to know how to use these things. Each scenario that we have played with so far, we played with the investors that I was wanting to get on the same page with, getting us involved earlier in the game so that they can make bigger profits and we can have a better chance of getting more activity on their properties and selling them for bigger profits. There was also first-time buyers who was doing a consultation with or doing a buyer workshop with that was taking forever to get through the buyer workshop. So the next meeting, I did a question tree and it made things move forward very quickly. Like within an hour and a half, we have all the information, we're working together, everything's great. Now we're moving into home buyer education step. And with practice, I've gone from taking 48 minutes to build a 1 through 18 question stack for a scenario to Sharon and I were getting ready for an appointment the other day, and I did one in 4 minutes to get ready for that appointment, and it worked out beautifully. And I've got those questions to share with us, but we can even do a fresh new one on the spot for a scenario. I'm not sure if it's for you, but open-minded, who do you know? Opening fact question. Is somebody able to type to take notes on these questions?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, cool. Stace, we also, as we write the questions, we're just writing the questions to get it out. And then we perform the questions and then see how it feels, because how we perform these questions makes a big difference on how it's going to impact somebody who's receiving the information. The pauses, the inflections, running through, vocal tones, the whole nine makes a big difference on how something's going to be received.
So I'm a little behind.
Yeah.
So you're picking one option out of 1 through 4. You're picking maybe 2 or 3 options from 5 through 13, correct?
What I'm doing is 1 through 18 in a row. So for instance, there was somebody who was contemplating selling their home to buy another one. So number 1, I'm not sure if it's for you, but we commonly help people sell for bigger profits by doing repairs and upgrades. Would you be open-minded to seeing what those options might look like? So the objection-free opening is, I'm not sure if it's for you, but we, commonly sell for great profits by doing these changes or transformations to the home. Right into number 2, because I'm just using number 2 as a question. Would you be open-minded, or how open-minded would you be to seeing what those options look like? And then the third one, who do you know? Who do you know that's recently sold a home? Or who do you know that's recently sold their home? Or who do you know that's recently did what you're trying to do, which is sell their home and buy another one? All applicable to the same situation in different ways to ask the who do you know? Because the answer to the who do you know can trigger a lot of information about that person that they know that's done this. And then I like to ask, well, what was their experience like? What did they share with you? Because it gives all kinds of intel to where their heads are at and what they've heard from other people. You can start dispelling myths and all kinds of stuff. I also use it to add value on our workshops and education and the things that we do differently. An opening fact question is a mutually agreeable fact with a very easy to answer question. A quick, like somebody can answer yes or no off the top of their head without thinking about it. Okay. So these people we met with. Mutual agreement. So opening fact question. It looks like you bought your home November 2015 for $300,000. Have you done any work to it over the years? People are going to know really quick, have they done work to it or not? And if the answer is yes, which it was, great. What did you do? I just want to learn more about what you did to your home. Let's talk. It's just to get them talking, because people love to talk about themselves. And then getting into perspective changes so that we can use this to build a stack of evidence that will then be used later in the conversation to drive decisions. Okay. So perspective changes. What do you understand? So what do you understand about selling one home and buying another home? Is an example on that. Or, what do you understand about selling homes? What do you understand about buying homes? Next one, what is your experience? What is your experience with buying and selling real estate? The answers to that gave a lot of intel and information to what their experience has been with it, which they've only bought their home. They've never sold a home. This is their first time selling a home. And then it was a lot of conversation around what their friends have experienced and what their friends have shared with them. Number 8 or number 7, how certain are you? The how certain are you is designed to really find out and like from the investor who I was trying to get them to get off of doing the things that they've always done because it's hurting their finances and it's hurting their profitability, to get them to change. How certain are you that continuing to do things the way you've always done is the most profitable way? How certain are you by doing the things that you've always done that you're getting the most profit out of every opportunity? Boy, that put him on his heels. And it changed the conversation started to shift after that. Okay. And with these people that are thinking about selling, how certain are you that selling to purchase a larger home is the best choice for your family? Like honest, and you want to scale it. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, like 1 being like, I'm totally not certain that this is the best thing to do, to number 10, like I am so confident we are doing this that I have no doubt. Like, where are you at on a scale of 1 to 10? Because whatever they answer is going to give us an idea of how certain they are that that is the way to go. When you ask how certain, it really starts to open up and be like, well, oh man, maybe I'm not really that certain.
It's basically a smoke out.
It is.
It's a smoke out. It's a true objection smoke out.
Yep. And when was the last time? So when was the last time you thought about selling your home? I want to know, have they been in and out of this decision for years? Is this just the first time they're thinking about it? Or when was the last time, when was the last time you looked at your finances? When was the last time you ran numbers to see if this would work? When was the last time you worked with a real estate professional? Oh, wait, that was 6 months ago. What happened with that? You know what I mean? It's going to flush out all kinds of stuff. Also, when was the last time, they've done a real estate transaction? Well, if that was back in 2014, isn't the market and the contract and the world quite different to perform real estate today versus 2014? Hell yeah. How important is it to you? How important is it to you is a really good one. Or how important is it? How important is it that you sell within a certain amount of time? How important is it that you get X amount of dollars? How important is it that whatever outcome it is that they're looking for? Or for instance, how important is it to you to have more space for your family? Like scale of 1 to 10, like 1 being, it's not really that important to have more space, to 10 being it's absolutely critical to the survival of my family. Like, where are you at on that scale? Okay. Could it be possible? This is another one that is really good to play with on any scenario. Could it be possible? Gets them to start thinking that there could be other ways to solve a problem. Could it be possible to do some changes to your home and increase the profit? Or could it be possible that there are other ways to deal with your family's space issues? Or could it be possible that there's other ways that we can, address things in order to accommodate what you need for your family? Could it be possible that there are other solutions to this problem? Just to get them thinking and talking, because the could it be possible one is really good to where a lot of clients will come up with their own answers of things that they didn't think about just because we asked the question and we zipped our lips and we waited to hear what they had to say. Very powerful, because a lot of times they will come up with other ways that were beautiful for their situation. And all you did was ask the question and help bring that out from within. It's also powerful because you find out what their thought process is like. 11, how would you feel if? So how would you feel if you were in your new home with this more space and your son and daughter had their own rooms and your parents had the bottom floor bedroom and bathroom for easy access and not having to navigate stairs anymore, with a giant backyard to entertain your friends? Because you mentioned earlier in the conversation that you love to entertain and throw big parties and you have a lot of family over all the time. How would you feel if you were able to sell in a certain time? How would you feel if, investor person, how would you feel if realtors thought of your company first for every single flip opportunity? How would you feel if you were making $10,000 to $50,000 more profit on every home that you sold because you followed our advice? How would you feel? Okay. People need to feel good or they're not moving forward. Okay. So we're wanting to find out what their feelings would be like in any situation. Just imagine. So the just imagine one is starting to now create that forward thought of just imagining what their life would be like. So you've got this stack of evidence in the previous questions. Just imagine you're now in your new home, you're experiencing life together, your kids have their own room, your parents now are downstairs on a single level without having to navigate steps anymore. You have a much larger yard for your kids to play in and entertain family. Just imagine what that looks like. Just imagine that you're now the investor that all realtors think about when they have a flip opportunity. Like, just imagine what that would be like. The if then is also the point where you can start gaining some trust and some assurities to help people feel good about something. Like, if you trust us to take care of your home sale, then I promise you'll be glad that you did. Okay. Or the investor, if you trust us to be involved earlier in the game, then I promise you are going to see greater profits with each sale. Like, pretty bold, yet I went there with them and it came across beautifully. Assumptive frames, when would be a good time? So we're on 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. When would be a good time is when we've got a stack of evidence, we've asked a lot of questions, now we're ready to move forward for the next steps. So like with regard to the first time buyers that I use these questions on for a workshop, once we gained all kinds of trust, went through all kinds of things, they were like, oh my God, you asked so many good questions. I've never thought about this stuff. I feel so heard and understood. Did a lot of acknowledging, validating, inserting value. When would be a good time is, okay, sounds like, we're ready for some next steps. When would be a good time for us to go ahead and book the home buyer education, which is the next step to review the purchase agreement in detail so you understand how we use it in negotiations and how it's going to be applicable to your situation. When would be a good time to set that up? Boom. Or when would be a good time for us to meet? Or when would be a good time for us to continue this conversation? So you can always have that next appointment booked. Or when would be a good time for us to schedule the painters to come in and give you a quote? I'm guessing you haven't gotten around to number 15. So an example would be these sellers that were thinking about buying something else. I'm guessing you haven't gotten around to looking at all your options. Don't worry. We can help you through that. Or let's say somebody hasn't reviewed documents that we've sent them. Hey, I'm guessing you haven't gotten around to reviewing those documents. It's a quick way to let them off the hook so they don't feel bad and continue to avoid, and then we can deal with the situation. Okay. I'm guessing you haven't gotten around to is a great one to use pretty often to re-engage conversations and get things going again. Number 16, for you have the 3 options. The 3 options you're going to want to give is option 1, the worst, ugliest option to consider. Number 2, well, if you keep doing the same things, you can always get what you always got, or it's kind of flat. Number 3, you take the stack of evidence of everything that they said that they needed and wanted. And option 3 is beyond a shadow of a doubt, that's the best way for them to go. Okay. So I'm guessing you've got you have 3 options. So the way I see it is you've got 3 options. You could stay in your current home, continue dealing with navigating the stairs, which sounds like it's been a very dangerous and difficult situation for your dad to get up and down with what's been going on. And the kids can stay in the same room like they've been sharing. And, that is an option for you. Option 2 is, you can remodel things in the home and make bedroom space downstairs, which sounds like you've already tried to do, and it didn't work out very well because of the things that you explained to me. And you could try to utilize this space. I'm on the fly making this one up if you can't tell. Or number 3, we can go through the steps of figuring out what renovations might look like and cost on your home and what it can do for the profitability of the sale of your home. And if you did sell your home, you'd end up having another $117,000 to put down on your purchase, which is going to save you about $956 a month off of your monthly payment compared to not selling your home. What are your thoughts on what option sounds the best to you? That was a really funky, terrible example of 3 options. That's an example of messiness and not being prepared. And what's cornerstone number 1? The worst time to think about what you're saying is in the moment you're saying it. That was just a prime example of I didn't have the 3 options ready and on the fly figuring it out. Whereas having 3 options dialed in ahead of time can be game changing on how that conversation goes.
Yeah, think about that, guys, is every listing you go on to, you ask these questions. You need to go into the listing appointment having 3 options in your back pocket based off of what you know to be able to be used, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the best things about this is what we're going to learn is as we print these things out and we build out these question trees and we make tweaks to them, and you have to pay attention to them. Like my gut's going to say, when I'm doing online lead gens, I'm going to have my question tree up on a computer, and I'm going to have a notepad to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This one, great, not so great. And I'm going to be taking notes because just because it sounds great on paper, when you put it into practice of role play with us, it might sound great. Or you talk to the client and you get a weird reaction to something. You're like, oh, I thought that was a home run, right? You need to be tracking these things as you keep moving on. This is not something you're going to pick up in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. This is how you communicate. Right. And I think that's the thing that we want you guys to understand. Like Michael, myself, Ryan, tons of people in the ecosystem are learning this, right? This takes years to master. So this isn't
Mhm.
something we're just bringing it to you for a couple of days and hope to God this thing works. Like the framework absolutely works. We saw Phil Jones do this. As a matter of fact, we did this team event. We're super excited because he's going to let us bring team members and everything else is going to be have an opportunity to kind of come through this. But there's multiple people that were just at the event with us guys who've seen this 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
Mhm.
Just so you know. So good stuff. So Michael, it's okay. You're not prepared on your 3 options today. That's okay. We'll get through it, and all of that. But as you guys can see, why this works. And here's the thing that I think is going to be very tricky, right? Is how well you word your perspective changes to not get people on the defense. Because you are calling people out without calling them out. So those ones right there are going to be those in my mind, like, listen, rejection free openings, you could probably wing 80% of your conversations with just opening fact question all the time. Very easy to remember. Another 10% you do open-minded. Another 10% you do, what do you know about? Like you don't like those are going to be very easy to master, in my opinion. But
Mhm.
perspective changes, these ones right here, these are where you really reap the benefits of your work you put in, especially up each type of prospect.
Mm.
What you do for a listing is not the same thing you're gonna do for an open house.
Yep.
Not the same thing you're gonna do for a brand new lead who has no clue who you are online. So this is gonna be a lot of fun, but it is gonna be a lot of work building these question trees. And I got good news. Phil Jones is giving 17 of them to us at some point. When we get those, we'll have ones for open house, ones for online lead gen, one for listing presentation, one for buyer presentation. And I don't know where the other ones are coming from, but we'll have 17 of them to work off of. And we'll go through that. But this is I know Michael, me and Ryan were there, and it was, people try to stump him. And he was not getting stumped.
Mm-mm.
It was very, very appealing. Yeah, he had to go look at his slides a little bit, what do you know about this? Or how do you feel about that? And he would look at the slides, okay, cool. But he would ask the question right away, and he would get through it very quickly, right? And the whole goal of this, guys, I know, Michael, I wasn't on the first one, so if I'm recapping, I apologize.
Okay.
But the whole goal of this is basically the same thing when we talked about where Stacy was here with the 7-step sales process, is handling concerns prior to concerns being concerns. Like that's the whole goal of this, right? Is to have such great communication and have so much ammo that you're handling the concerns. So at the end of the transaction, they basically already have their decision being made. Right? That's the purpose of these question trees. That's the purpose of doing these, is you're basically getting people to where you want them to go, which is to say yes at the end for something you want them to do. And you're using these question trees to get people to move through that process. And if they try to stump you, you can move back around to get back where you need to go. But that's going to take time. So,
Yep.
we'll see.
Yeah. Great conversation. I'm sorry. Great questions create great conversations.
Yes.
Great conversations create great relationships. Great relationships create great opportunities, and great opportunities create action. So like running through this is always going to be evolving. And so I want to practice going forward, like writing out the first 18 questions of a scenario so we can start practicing this stuff, because we got to write it out and then we got to perform it. And when we perform it, that's when we start breaking down and figuring out, ooh, I wrote it and it sounded good in my head, but when I said it out loud, man, I need to change my inflection. I need to change this word. I need to swap this word out for that. This is where we can play together on that stuff.
So I think we should get a list of which ones you guys want to learn and go there.
How certain are you? I feel like that one, God, tonality can totally make or break you on.
100%.
Yes.
100%.
Cause I look at that one, I'm like, and this is where they hate me.
And this is where, yes, how you perform that exact question is
Yeah.
gonna make or break how people take that information and think of what you're doing. But how great of a question is it when you're basically telling them, are you 100% sure that you're correct?
Yeah,
That's
because
really
they-
what you're doing.
it's
Yeah,
very
because they-
powerful, but it's a slippery slope.
Mhm.
It
Well,
can
if
be
you get
because
it-
it's like, well, how certain are you is very different than
Yeah.
how certain are you?
Mhm.
See
Well-
how that feels different?
Well, even though that second one is still slightly condescending, it's still,
And that's what I have to work on, Stace, because I was noticing that week one as just doing some practice runs of sharing what I'd prepared. I was like, oh my God, I sound like a condescending jerk. I need to fix how I talk to people.
Yeah, like, I mean, like how certain are you pricing your house higher than the last comp is gonna give you the best results that you're looking for? Like,
Yeah.
like.
Okay, I think the key behind all of this stuff, guys, is you have to be genuinely curious as to why they're saying what they're saying.
Right.
Right? These aren't just questions to ask so that you can get to the next question. It's to open your eyes to understand where they're coming from, right? Perspective changes. You can't change their perspective if you don't know what their perspective is. And even if you know what it is, you don't know why it is, you can't start to ask the questions that will lead them to opening up to hear possible scenarios that may be different than what they're thinking, right? So it's all about listening. It's all about building a conversation that has you genuinely curious why they think the way they think, why they feel the way they feel. So the beginning part of this, it's going to be very one-sided because you have to understand the framework, right? You have to understand, why these questions are powerful and then get them to work within, your conversation. But then the second piece is it's a two-sided conversation always, right? So the next piece is really understanding how to listen and then how to frame the next question based off of what you just heard to get them to where they need to be, not to where you want them to be, to get them to where they need to be.
well,
And that's an art, and it's going to take a lot of time.
well, and repeating back, like just to look at how certain are you without looking at what do you understand about the process? What is your experience with this particular process? So how certain are you that this and this are going to lead you to that? So I guess it all works as,
It all works if you're coming from what Ryan said, a curiosity spot, right? If
Yeah.
you're coming
and you're
from
actually
helping
listening.
and you're
Yeah,
actually.
if you're trying to trap somebody, and this is the thing, right? A lot of times we know where we need to get people, right? And that's kind of the trap that we set for ourselves. We've been through this so many times. We know where the finish line is, and we just want to get them there. But we got to get them there in their time, and we got to get them there in a way that has them getting them there, like on their own steam. Like, okay, I want to be there, and you got me there. Thank you. As opposed to, shit, this guy, he just wordsmithed the heck out of me, and I know I'm not at the finish line. He just closed me. I don't want to be closed.
Yeah.
Right. That is not the objective, right? Closing people, great. Closing people that don't want to be closed, that now have second thoughts on what the hell just happened. That's not the objective. So,
Right.
like I said, it's an art. It's going to take some time and a lot of practice. But the good news is it's what we're doing.
Yeah. And
Well,
like even on the open-minded one, I'm almost thinking like maybe we just go one question at a time each day. Because like I was looking at my notes from open-minded. Would you be open-minded is to trigger a yes or no question. How open-minded is to qualify or quantify what you are proposing. So would you is for triggering a decision. How open-minded would you be? How is for creating discussion to open up for discussion. So what words we use changes the dynamics of how the question comes across and how it's going to flow in the conversation.
Yeah, like I've talked to, and this is good because I talked to probably 2-3 people, maybe even 4 in the last couple of days, just with the new leads, and they're all just not ready. And there's reasons why. And having this is going to be really good and really strong. But
Yeah, I just killed the screen
oh,
share.
shit, okay. I was like, where did you ever go?
We're still here.
But like even them, you know, I mean, having those deeper conversations, I've had a couple of them that were decent, but they weren't as good as they could have been. But realizing, you know, a lot of people are just, you know, it's payments, you know, there is, I mean, I had one person, she said she got pre-approved. She lives in in Oakland Hills. And she's like, yeah, we got pre-approved and the payment was 2,000 more than we wanted. So we're waiting. So they went through the process, said, hold up, time out. And now, now we're looking at Orinda and Lafayette and Dublin and Pleasanton, and we just open up our eyes to other things. And there's, I mean, what am I gonna do? Book an appointment with them? Like they've already gone through it. Like they're just, you gotta kind of just keep checking in with them and following up and figuring out their whys and building that relationship, right? Because yeah, hey, would you like to do a first time buyer workshop? They'll be like, fuck you, I don't care about that right now. That's the least of my worries, right? Like, yeah, it's what I would want them to do, but it's not what they need to do. We need to continue to keep conversations moving forward to a better spot to where they're like, yeah, I'm ready to do that, right?
Yeah.
We can't expect them to go from, I've been pre-approved, I don't want to buy $2,000 more a month to, hey, I want to do a workshop with some random guy who just called me this first day. Like some people, we got to dig up some more information on them and figure out their whys and figure out, you know.
Well,
you're
what
not-
do you ask
I mean,
them
in
at
this
that
scenario, you could probably assume what their perspective is, right? And you could probably ask some questions to solidify exactly what it is and
Yeah.
why it is.
Mhm.
And then through that, but you have to get permission to have this conversation, right?
Yeah,
If you don't get permission to have the conversation first, then you're not having the conversation. And if you are, and you didn't get permission, it's probably one-sided. They're not really listening to you. But I think, Stacy, this is where the rubber meets the road for everybody. It's right. We know a lot of what the perspective is out there, right? The market sucks. Interest rates are high. Payments are crazy high. I'm waiting for the market to sink. When the market sinks, that's when I'm going to jump in. Well, you and every other person who's thinking exactly like you, what do we think is going to happen? So we can assume what those perspectives are. And instead of feeling like, you know, or coming at them like, oh, I got good news. I'm the pro and I got all your answers. If you could ask these questions to get them to understand, okay, well, yeah, no, I can afford $2,000. Okay, cool. You can afford $2,000. So there's a reason why you're choosing not to enter the market right now. Tell me a little bit more about what that is. And you get them to expose what their perspective is. And not that you can change their perspective, but you can certainly challenge it and get them to think, because maybe they're open to thinking about things differently. And that ends up turning into, well, shit, Chris, you're right. God, if you're saying what I think you're saying, which is everybody and their mother is waiting for rates to come down to get back into this market. And when that happens, I'm just going to compete against 10 other people in the same house. God, any reduction in rates going to be countered by a price increase.
Right.
That's probably not the best idea. Like maybe I don't get hurt, but I'm not in a better position.
Yeah.
Maybe it would make sense to do it with them. Like, so those are the moments where you recognize, like, okay, all of the practice, all of the question trees, all of this role play, it plays out, and all you have to do is listen for the specific answers so that you can key in on what the next question should be in your tree based on how that conversation's going with that client to keep it moving.
So you wouldn't even ask them, do you mind me asking, like, what were you approved for? And were you only seeing things that maximize that budget that was 2,000 over what you're going to pay? Have you seen options that might be lower and thought about going a different route?
I think those are
did that
good
on the-
questions, but
they
here's
did
my
that on their
feedback on
own.
it. That's more of a driving them to you're going to buy,
Yes.
right? Like, oh, so your budget didn't work at that level. Let's just decrease the level. Like that's there. But
open with that, and then follow
question
it up
is-
with what happens when rates do come down, and then you have all that competition. Or how long is that going to take? Do you want to be building equity in something where you have control over how profitable it's going to be in the end game? Like if you were only planning on holding on to it for X amount of time, you could always fix it up and make sure it's building value the whole time. Like, would you get into any of that, or is that just
No.
far off.
Over
of
time,
where I
over
want.
time,
time.
because
Over time.
that's way too direct, right?
Way
That's
too.
way too, like, that's not condescending, and that's definitely, demonstrating your experience and in your professionalism. But you just unloaded on them all the reasons why they're stupid, right? And now they're like, oh, great, cool. She just put me on point, and now I feel like an ass.
Think about this
So-
too. And I apologize, Ryan, real quickly.
You're
Think
good.
about this. What is it? When you said that just now, Stacy, which I know a lot of agents say it, I've said it myself, so I'm not here saying that what you're saying has not been said. All I'm hearing on the other side of that is you're trying to make a sale.
It's
That's
too much
all
in
I
my
heard.
interest and not in the other person's interest.
Yep. All I heard is you're trying to make a sale. That's all I heard when you were saying that. And so you got to understand that, especially in today's market, especially right now, this is about building relationships. This is not about closing transactions. Like I said, like I dug in a little bit. They work in San Francisco. They love the area. They love where they live right now. If they can live, it's their dream area, she said. I said, no worries. I said, I fully understand that. I know that you're looking at other areas. I know that you have family. It sounds like in Dublin and Pleasanton. I think we need to take some time and really figure out it, if waiting is a good idea, or where is that right location? I know some people love Walnut Creek for shopping and food. Sounds like you have family over here, but you're not there yet. You're not ready to figure. And she goes, yeah, no, we just kind of got punched in the jaw and realized we couldn't buy a house. We wanted to buy a house. Right. And so we have to do a better job. And this is me included. This is not at any one of us. This is me included. We have to do a better job at getting to understand people and understand building relationships and understanding, asking meaningful questions and then listening to guide them to what's best for them. And if we do that, you're going to get a lot of long-term follow-ups and a lot of clients that are going to come back out and reach out to you and come back into the field. There's not a lot of people right now that are dropping what they're doing to go buy a house at a 7.25% interest rate. They're just not. That doesn't mean that they're not qualified. It doesn't mean that they're not pre-approved. It doesn't mean they're anything. They're waiting for another opportunity. They're waiting for these rates. Listen, these rates at 6.5%. We're about to have a field day. They hit 6. We're going to be freaking out of this world. We hit 5. Holy Lord, it's about to happen, right? So it's not the end of the world. We have to understand that listings is going to be the key. The one thing that we've been really focusing our energy on our ownership side is listings. They control everything. They really do, right? So we need to get more and more listings. The buyers come from listings sometimes, right? And getting buyers, to understand that, oh, he's got to move out. And getting buyers, I'll stop the recording here in 2 seconds because I got stuff to do too, but I want to finish this thought. Getting buyers right now, almost you want to reverse engineer, like, look, I know you're probably worried. I know we have all the data and what's going on, but let's talk about why you even thought about buying a house, and how long have you been thinking about buying a house, and what is the why behind buying the house? And let me ask you, how many people in your family own homes? What's your experience with home ownership? Like, dive into those types of questions to really start to figure out these people's why, because the more we do that part of the transaction, more part of that relationship, they'll open up the things that come along the lines. Stacy, we're very clear that we could probably tell anybody right now why it's a good time to buy. I mean, we're all trained on data analytics, the market. I can tell you damn near everything you want to know about, but that's not going to get people to say yes today. What's going to get people yes today is making sure it's a good reason for them and for them only. And as
A
long as
good
we do
enough
that,
reason for them
we're
to
in a
have to
good
pay
position.
these interest rates.
What's
Well,
that?
look, I mean, what's the big
Good enough
difference
reason.
between 7 and 6? What's the difference
Not a
between 6
lot.
and 5? Right? The difference is
Fear.
how they feel about it.
How they feel. Yeah.
Right? And that's for any objection, for anybody buying or doing anything. It's, do they feel good about what they're doing? And if somebody's in their ear, if they're listening to news, if they're second guessing the decision and they're putting so much behind it, like, buying a house is a huge freaking deal, right? It has the ability to impact life for a very long time, one way or the other. And if they feel like they're making a bad decision, guess what they're not going to do? They're not going to do what's going to make them feel bad. They want to feel good about it. And the purpose behind all of this is to really understand how they feel, why they feel it, and then to challenge their perspective in a way that gets them to where they want to be. And where they want to be may not be buying a house today. It may not be buying a house tomorrow, and that's okay. We have to be okay with all of those outcomes, because as long as we got them to where they should be, then we did our job.
Correct.
And that's probably the biggest takeaway for me coming away from Dallas was, you've got all of these tools. How you use the tools is really where the magic is. And if you can get good at using these tools to get people to open up so you really understand the whys behind everything that they're doing, everything that they're thinking, then you can do a really good job of guiding them to where they need to be when they need to be there.
Which will increase your close ratio automatically.
100%.
More
100%.
deals, more everything, right? So if you put those things first, like Ryan said, everything else will fall into place. And that's why being on top of this and working through market changes in this type of framework is really, really good, because as that framework changes, as long as you understand this framework, the market changes to something else, that we just go through that question tree based off that current market and then get the kinks out of that, right? So, but good. I gotta run. Outside of that, we'll see you tomorrow and we'll get ready to rock and roll. And Stacy, you're coming in today, tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday?
The last message I sent you is just let me know when you want me to come in and I'll go.
Oh, let me tell Ryan. Ryan, she texts back.